Hello and welcome to episode number 428 of the Plain Talking UK podcast. I'm Carlos, and in this week's special show, we have a look back at another interview from the Jersey International Air Show. We've got an interview with Chris Burwell, our third in the series on that set of interviews. And we've also got an interview with Vicky brought to us from Armando. All the great stuff as always, but joining me here, well, not here, but live in the studio, back over in the PTUK Master Suite studios, it is, of course, Matt Smith.
Hello. This is clever, isn't it? I'm on the Norfolk Broads right now.
Are you? I'm currently doing a birthday disco.
Are you? Oh, very good. Well done. Yes. It's a very special show today, as I say, because unfortunately we're not able to get together, but we do have a cracking show with loads of fantastic content for you, which we're very much looking forward to sharing with you.
Yes, and with us as well this week, as always, is the king of BA, is of course Neville Bounds.
Yes, a lot of BA flying this week, I can tell you. Brussels on Sunday, and then Glasgow. Just coming back today, actually. So yeah, quite a hectic schedule, and very busy the airports are again as well, which is good to see in some respects, I would say.
I bet it's, as I say, it must be a very flying is always one of those glamorous things, isn't it? But when you're literally doing it as part of your job, it wiped me out, Nev, I've got to be honest.
I am quite tired, I have to say. So.
I bet.
But there we are. That's how it is.
All part of the fun.
Yeah, Nev's gold card will actually be an actual gold card very soon, made out of gold.
Too right.
And joining us back again this week for the show, as always, he's still here. He's feeling a bit windy, but he's not had a night out with Captain Al. It is, of course, Armando.
What kind of a thing is that to say?
Thanks for that. I don't know how I feel about that introduction, Carlos, but we did, I assume, survive the hurricane here in North Carolina, since we are pre-recording this. But I am also unable to be on the show. I'm actually flying right now from Charlotte down to the Miami area with a client. And he was gracious enough, he's one of my regular clients, that he also offered for Megan to come down to Miami. So as you're seeing this, we are in South Beach, which did not get hit very hard by the hurricane, but of course the state of Florida did. But we did fly down, and we'll be hanging out and probably pop in the chat room.
Oh dear. So have you got anything planned? It sounds amazing. Have you got anything sort of up your sleeve how long are you there for?
Oh, we'll be here Friday through Sunday, and so flying down on Friday night, probably go out South Beach, experience the culture there, and then just kind of hang out, explore the area Saturday, and then back on Sunday. So.
Honestly, it's just I get exhausted listening to both Armando and Nev with their various lives and producer John. Every time I was like, oh, I'm in this part of the world today, or I'm over here, or Nev is in Glasgow for the third time this month, or whatever. I'm just exhausted listening to it all, honestly.
I'm right there with you. We actually said for the rest of this year and maybe even next year, we're going to slow down a little bit on the vacations and the trips and whatnot.
Fun though, isn't it?
It is fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Flying is always fun. It's always fun flying.
Indeed.
Except in those conditions that you're experiencing there, Carl.
I know,
yeah,
absolutely.
It's not
very brave of you to sit there and
the storm moved over from the States and come here. This is our back garden. That's
right. Okay.
Tree there.
I must admit, I don't remember the palm trees in your garden. I must be honest.
No, they've been hidden.
Okay, and I didn't realise you had windscreen wipers on your window behind you. But other than that, it's all good.
Technology is so good.
He says, trying to describe a visual representation on an audio podcast. But anyway, there we go.
So, what have we got to come first on the show this week? Well, we have got a very special interview, indeed, haven't we, Nev? So, Nev, where were we? Well, what was it? 3-4 weeks ago?
It was, isn't it? Yes, time has flown somewhat. Well, we were at the reception, of course, for the Jersey International Air Display on the night before. And so Carlos got a chance to talk to Chuck, who was one of the pilots on the OV-10 Bronco, a very iconic aircraft, if ever there was one. And not only did we get the chance to talk to Chuck, the pilot. But then Jonathan from Swissport very kindly got us airside access over to the airport in Jersey itself, where Chuck gave us a tour of the aircraft. And right at the end of the interview, we managed to squeeze Carlos into the cockpit.
I can't wait for this.
Where he tells us what all the switches do.
Did he?
Like so,
well,
let's
Carlos.
first go back to the let's first go back to the marquee though, where Carlos is talking to Chuck.
So we're here at the Jersey International Air Display 2022, and I've been joined by Chuck, who flies the AV-10 Bronco. So Chuck, welcome.
Yes, thank you. Sir.
Thank you for coming over. And so Chuck, tell me a bit about the aircraft you fly.
So that Bronco belongs to the European Fighter Museum in Montélimar, France. It's one of the biggest museums in France, specialized in fighting aircraft. We have 75 aircraft explosive and a lot of small aircraft and something like that. And this Bronco was an Novi-10B, ex-German force, and before it was really a Novi-10A, made in 69. But it didn't came to Vietnam, and after it was changed to Novi-10B and sold to the German Air Force.
So is that two-seat or one seat or two-seat?
And it's two-seat, but there's only one stick in front seat. It's because for the use of German, the rear seat was not in place because they had the tray to tow the target and that's why.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's an amazing aircraft.
It looks amazing.
Yeah.
It looks stunning. I've seen the pictures of the aircraft you fly on the Jersey, the website for the air show. I'm looking forward to seeing it tomorrow. It's got a good, different paint colour.
Yeah. So at the beginning it was green like Luftwaffe, but we changed it in I think in 2015, and we choose the color shape of Desert Storm. And it's an amazing color because it's only one flying in the world. Okay, remember that there is only 25 Bronco flying in the world, especially 2 in Europe, one in Belgium, but is making a lot of air show in UK, and our Bronco, and we make all Europe. For example, this year we made the first meeting was in Piestany in Slovakia for a huge air show, night air show, because we have an accreditation from civilian authorities French to make air show in night with pyrotechnics and flashlight. And we make Poland, in Lesno, we make a lot of air show in France. Last week we were in Cambrai for the 70th anniversary of 112 Squadron, which was my squadron, okay? And now it's closed, but it was one of the creators of the NATO Tiger squadron.
Wow. So a bit about the aircraft, speed. So what's the kind of speed at you fly the Bronco?
It's only, what I can tell you, it's a Swiss knife. You know, a Swiss knife. It's only aircraft able to do everything. So for the speed, we land at 40 knots. 40 knots? 40 knots, 40, 50. And maximum speed is 350. Normal speed, it's about, for cruise, it's about 200 knots, okay? And for the activity, for all we can do with that aircraft, it's only aircraft, we have 2 MTOV, maximum takeoff weight, with one for the field, grass field, and one for the hard field, okay? And is able to go in air carrier without arresting cable, take off without catapult. We have a cargo. We can put 1.4 ton inside.
1.4 tons?
Yeah. Wow. We can put 2 stretcher with a doctor. American were used to put 5 parachutists, 6 troopmen. Undercarriage, it was possible to make a gun, a Gatling, with all the ammo inside. Okay, it can carry every weapon sidewinder, bomb, laser, everything. It's an amazing aircraft.
So a bit about your history, Chuck. Where did flying begin for you?
For me, I'm a pure product of a flying club. So it's important for young people to go in flying club to make gliding or aircraft, and I'm pure product. And after I made my study in Toulouse, in southwest, it's a city of aeronautic, with Airbus or something like that. I made my engineer license, okay? And after I joined the Air Force, and I was fighter aircraft in air defense on Mirage F1 and Mirage 2000 in Cambrai, in north of France, okay? And after, when I was retired, I made ATPL with on RTR. I was I was captain on RTR, but also I make business jet.
What business jet did you fly?
Yeah, I flew on Beach 90, Beach 200, Beach 350, and last year I was captain on Citation.
Oh, Citation. What's your favourite?
Bronco.
The Bronco. Oh, the Bronco's a favourite.
It's an amazing aircraft.
Yeah.
Really.
So, when did you when did you first fly? I mean, was it as a teenager?
I was 14.
14.
Because the limit in France is 14 to begin in glider. Okay, and to make solo flight is 14. So I began I'm living in South France. You know D'Artagnan?
Yes.
I living in the place of D'Artagnan, so in southwest of France. Okay. And I'm just at the far end of the runway of Nogaro. So every day I was looking for the gliders towed by an aircraft. So my neighbor was a mechanic, and he said, okay, because Chuck is my nickname, really, my name is Jean-Luc. He said, come to make glide.
So you're glad. So, for a lot of in the UK, especially in the UK, we all know that learning to fly is incredibly expensive. It costs a lot of money. Is that the same over in France?
It's not really the same because it's association. It's non-benefit association. So I can tell you that in south of France, I'm flying instructor in flying club. It's important to study the young people, because one day I will stop my to pilot, and we need some engineer, mechanics, pilot, fighter pilot, everything. So in France, I think that for the hour the price is nearly 130 euros by flight, because it's non-benefit association. I think that in England it's society. It's not really the same.
Yeah, the flying schools in the UK tend to, for a Cessna 150, for an hour, 170, 180 pounds sterling. So
it's 160 or 50 euro. It's the same.
Just for an hour.
Yeah, but in the history of France, in the aeronautics, all people began by the flying club. Okay, my grandfather died in '44. It was a pilot, and it was a former in a fighting school. It was a young club, a small club, where the students were learning to fly and to go to the combat. Okay, so I think it's important, and it's why it's not so expensive.
So if you had advice for young people who want to fly, you'd say gliding first?
Yeah, gliding first.
Yeah.
I began by gliding. It's not expensive, and begin by glider, make 100, 200, 300. It's not expensive, and after pass to the aircraft, it's more expensive. Okay. Especially at that time, with the price of the petrol.
So tomorrow you're displaying here. what do we know what kind of display you're going to be doing?
For my display, I use a Bronco as it was built for. It's a ground attack aircraft. So it's an aircraft made to fly in the trees. In the Bay of St. Elias, not possible because there is no trees. Okay, but it's a gun attack, bombing, something like that. It's not vertical maneuver because it's not made for that. And for us, we want to preserve the Bronco, so we don't take any. We don't make any maneuver will be dangerous for the safety of the pilot and for the aircraft.
So have you been? I mean, obviously you're here at Jersey this or tomorrow. Have you had a busy year? Because obviously things have been very quiet for the air show. It's been very quiet. Have you had a busy 2022?
Yeah.
Has it been busy for you?
Yeah. Especially because it's an anniversary also for the Bronco.
Yeah.
We made air show in all Europe. We went to the Ukraine and to Morocco. Okay, the Bronco is a special aircraft. Every year we have a lot of requests to be here, and sometimes we have to say no, it's not possible because we are here, and especially for our Bronco because we can do the day display, sunset display, and last Monday, it's a scoop. Last Monday we dropped parachutist. And it was in France the first time that a fighter aircraft dropped parachutist.
Wow!
Because we didn't have the Vector in France, so we dropped the ambassador, parachutist ambassador of French Air Force. And next year we will be able, with accreditation from our authorities, to drop 4 parachutists. Okay, so we can do a lot of things. And this year we made about, it's not finished because September is the beginning. It will be about 25 air show in all Europe.
Wow.
Okay. In France, just behind the Patrouille de France and Rafale, we are the private aircraft who make the most air show in Europe.
It's brilliant. Well, that's great. Obviously you do a good job. You must. Very popular.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, we'll get you for Nev's birthday party.
Yeah. But we hope that next year, if guys listen to my speech, we want to come in England, but best is to make 2 weekends because it's expensive.
Yeah.
The price is it's not expensive, but the fuel is expensive, and the price is the travel. To make the travel between Montélimar and UK and to go back is expensive. So we can share with 2 air show, with 2 weekends, and it will be lower for the organizer.
Hopefully then, we'll see you.
Yeah, we hope to be, especially because it's not the same than the other Bronco with green. This one is a desert cover, that is fine.
So, one final question for you, Chuck. And we ask this question to every pilot we speak to on the show. If you could go outside now to the airfield at Jersey and jump into any aircraft, military, commercial, GA, retired or still flying, or retired.
You know the answer.
What would you be? What would it be?
Yeah, sure.
You're going to say Bronco.
I flew on a lot of aircraft, Mirage F1, Mirage 2000. I was flight instructor in Alpha Jet. I was captain in ATR. I flew on Flying Club, on the DR400, Pipers. Really, Bronco is
the Bronco holds a special.
Yeah, it's an amazing aircraft.
Yeah,
sure.
Well, there we go. Well, Chuck, thanks for talking to us this evening. It's been lovely to speak to you.
Yeah.
And where can our listeners go if they want to find out more information about what you do? Where can they go?
You can go to the website of the museum. It's www.meacmtl.com. Musée européen de l'aviation de chasse. Okay, if you find on Google, you will find the website, and you can see all the aircrafts that were exposed in our museum.
We'll put that link with this.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you go south for holidays, because there is a lot of English person, stop to Montélimar. It's in the airfield of Montélimar-Ancon. There is a turn, and there is a Mirage 3 two-seat, indicating the way to go to the museum.
There we go. So you heard it here. Well, Chuck, thanks again for joining us. It's been lovely to speak to you, and I'm sure the listeners will love to hear about it. So thanks for coming, and let's have a great show tomorrow.
Yeah, fine.
Thank you.
We hope the weather will be good.
There we go. Thank you. We're back at the Jersey airport here. We're lucky enough to get airside access. I'm back with Chuck, and we're actually with the aircraft itself, the Bronco. Chuck, welcome back.
Yeah.
It's great to be here and
sure.
see the
You're
aircraft
welcome.
up close. But tell us a bit about what's going on in here. This looks like a cargo area.
Yeah, this cargo. It's why I was telling you that it's a Swiss nav, because it is able to do everything. And inside we can put 1.4 ton, okay? And Americans were used to put 5 paratroops, and they were picking out the ejection seat from the rear part and all the avionics, okay? Because in the V-10A, it was not a canopy with plexiglass, it was full, okay? And there were no passenger inside. For us, we put 1 passenger, it's our mechanics. We don't punish it, it's because there is only 2 places in front, okay? And for us, we will put 4 paratroops, okay? And it's why you were asking me, the float is very, the floor is very
clean, very
clean
shiny,
and shining. And we put a box to preserve the avionics, and it's better for the first paratroops with its parachute. So it's clean, and it can't. It's not possible that something hurts the parachute. Safety. Okay. Yeah.
Hence, is that why the perspex? Yeah.
Normally, the American was making wood, full wood, contreplaqué. Sorry, I don't know the term. And we put plexiglass, but because for us it's easier to see all the cables and something like that. It's not necessary to take it out. Okay. As we make check every flight. To check the cable, because all the cable of the direction and the elevator are passing here, okay? And also all the command of the flaps are passing here in the cellule of the aircraft.
So are the flaps cable or rods?
Most part is cable, okay? But sometimes you have iron, not iron, I don't know, sorry, tube.
Tube, yeah.
Okay. But more past 90% is cable, because for the elevator, the stick is passing here, jigging here, passing in the boom. That part of the aircraft, we call that a boom, okay? And climbing here and passing on the elevator. Wow.
Say the emblem on the back there, the European Fighter Museum. That's a special.
No, that's special only for this year, because it's the 25th anniversary. Like the Jersey I show with Mike Higgins, it's where I showed you yesterday. We have a special patch, and as you can see, it's nearly the same patch for Jersey and for the museum. And outside, and there is also the website of the museum. www.acmtl.com, okay? Since 1997, 25 years. And outside, there is a special decoration for the last meeting we made in Cambria with the tiger and nougat. You know that as the Bronco is coming from Montélimar, and the specialty of Montélimar, it's a candy, it's nougat, okay? That's why the tiger was normally taking a ball of rugby, was playing rugby, and we replaced it by a piece of nougat.
I saw the website. I did see the website. I looked last night. Yeah, it's very good. I'm gonna have to make a trip. To come over and see the website. So in the back here, you've got some foot pedals there. Is that so?
Yes. For the rest of the mechanics, he can put his foot.
He put his feet.
No, it's not. It's just to put because it's fragile.
Yeah.
Okay. It's wood with plexiglass. It's wood.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And there is only two balls to take it.
I expect it's a nice view.
Yeah.
When you're sitting here,
especially because if you look here, it's camouflage. It's a cover. But you can see outside.
From the other side,
we make it that. Be careful, we make it that to respect the cover of the aircraft. With this cover is a Desert Storm, because not that one, but the Bronco made Desert Storm from the air carrier. Okay, and American guys lose two aircraft. One crew was killed, and the other one eject. It was prisoner of the Iraqi guys.
So how comfortable is it on the flight deck in the seat, pilot seat? Is it comfortable?
Yeah,
Lots
very
of room.
Sure. Yeah. You sit here like that, so the view is perfect.
Yeah.
Okay. I propose you to go in front. Okay. Okay.
So I've been very lucky indeed to come on board on the flight deck here of the Bronco. Chuck's very kindly given me access to the front seat, which I must say was quite the effort to get into. I just about survived, but it's amazing sitting here. I can't express the amount of view that you've got here on the flight deck. The actual pilot's vision is fantastic. Great massive windows that you can see on the side here. Everything is very, very open. Obviously lots of steam gauges, lots and lots of steam gauges. Undercarriage gear and the gear control here. You've got throttle controls just on my left here, and your feathering controls for the props, and fuel shut-off valves are just on here. But as you can probably see, Nev's got the camera here in a good position. You can see there is no Garmin sat navs. In fact, we have got here your old school map for finding out where you are. But one thing I will say, plenty of air vents for letting the air in, because I'd imagine this is quite the greenhouse to be flying in when you're in the aircraft. Single stick in the centre here, like control stick, probably see. And yeah, it's actually quite roomy. It is very roomy. Rear view mirror, which is always handy, and there is a seat behind me as well. But very nice. I feel very lucky indeed to have been given the opportunity to come and sit on here. So from me, Carlos, here on the Bronco, back to you in the studio. So what you didn't really get to see really was just how easy it was to get in and out of that Bronco. No,
I believe you.
There's one of those times, when you really wish you'd have at least 4 or 5 cameras placed all around.
Really?
So how really easy it was to get in and get out.
I have actually got a bit of footage of that as a separate piece, so I might play that out on a future episode.
Oh, lovely. Oh, we'll look forward to that the following week's show. We'll look forward to that next week's show, Nev, please, if you wouldn't mind.
But weren't we lucky to have that exclusive access?
Incredible.
Quite a bit of form filling out, quite a lot of security passes and all that.
Yeah, we had to go through security as well.
Did you?
It was
worth
it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and of course, as you might have heard a bit of noise there from a landing jet. That was Alan Sugar's jet.
Oh, was it?
It was, yeah.
During the interview.
Oh, lovely. Did he buy you a beer?
I thought he could have at least waited until we'd, he could have held off for 10 minutes whilst we've just finished the interview. But,
rude. Yeah, absolutely. He didn't buy you a drink then?
No.
How rude. Oh, well.
So, coming up next on the show, and the third part of a very special series.
I'm very concerned about the aircraft behind you, by the way, Carlos.
Oh, sorry.
Yes.
There's some...
Your chair has grown wings. It's quite worrying. Yeah. Anyway, carry on.
So, Nev, this third part of the story, so just fill us in case the listeners Don't know what's
Yeah,
going on.
of course. Well, we've very kindly subcontracted some of our interviewing to Captain Nick Anderson, and Nick was interviewing Chris Burwell, who's written this book called 9 Lives. It's a fascinating tale of Chris's time in the RAF and really enjoyable. Chris has very kindly signed this book for us, so at the end of the whole series, which is 6 parts long, so we're just going to be showing part 3 in a second, we'll be doing a quiz where you can win this book that Chris has written. It's a great read. So this is the part of the interview where Nick is talking to Chris about his time down in the Falklands.
Like myself, you missed out on the opportunity to serve during the Falkland War. I guess having a heavily pregnant wife at home would have been far from ideal, but weren't you a bit disappointed?
In a way, yes, Nick. I used to wake up every morning, listen to the news about what had happened in the Falklands and think, I should be down there. But then I'd think, this is not a good time, family-wise. So it's always a trade-off. And to be honest, by then I was in Germany, of course. It was one squadron at Wittering, my old squadron that were down in the South Atlantic. And we just sent a few reinforcement pilots to go and help out the Navy and one squadron as well. And yes, I was very suitably qualified with my one squadron time. And in some ways I should have gone down, but as I subsequently found out, my squadron commander had blocked my going down anyway. So.
I think he's a fine chap, and I'm sure your wife would agree. You mentioned a little tension between the Navy and the RAF pilots serving aboard the carriers that I wasn't aware of. Do you think you could expand on that a little without embarrassing yourself?
I won't embarrass myself. I may say something that might annoy a few other people. I think people need to read Pete Squire on this. Air Chief Marshal Sir Peter Squire, who's now dead sadly, wrote very well about this in the Harrier Boys Volume 1 about the South Atlantic and Operation Corporate. He gives a very clear and very candid view of his view, a very candid view of what went on in the South Atlantic, particularly with respect to the interrelationship between air and the ship drivers on the carriers, whereas the Navy seemed to have a view about how they would operate aircraft which didn't go hand in glove with the Royal Air Force's way, and it seemed rather as though air became very secondary to what the ship was doing, and I think that caused a lot of angst and a lot of difficulty. And I think it's very unfortunate because it should have been a much more cohesive operation, and I think from that we probably learnt a lot as well, and we moved on from that, and things now are much more cohesive between the 3 services.
Yeah. You mentioned you led a deployment out to the Falklands after the war, and you mentioned that you felt the need to, I found it quite amusing, restrict your pilots from watching videos during the day when they were otherwise occupied. For my many hours spent whiling away the time on QRA.
Yes.
I remember the video machine being a godsend. I'm curious why you wanted to lay down those restrictions when perhaps other detachments didn't.
Okay. I think the air defence world, which you're alluding to, obviously, is different because they had a QRA requirement 24 hours a day. We didn't. Okay. So that in the evening, we could switch off and just say the Phantoms at the other end of the airfield are looking after Q. So we're off the hook. So we could get together. And I think part of being on detachment is that you actually try and build some spirit and some morale, because you're 8,000 miles away from home. It can get difficult, and if people form little cliques and start doing their own thing, it can be quite corrosive, especially in a small operation like the Harrier flight, because when we're talking about the officers, I would have like 7 pilots down there. I would have an army major, a ground liaison officer, I'd have 1 engineering officer, and that would be it. So there'd be about 9 officers. Now, you don't really want cliques appearing here, and I don't want to get into what's happening with the Red Arrows at the moment, but you actually want to keep the guys together and do some team building. And I think if you're there for 3 months, the least you can do is actually, if you want to watch a film, we'll watch a film together. What are we going to watch, guys? Let's have a beer, watch a film together, and it's a social occasion. And what you don't want is somebody deciding they're going to watch a film. A couple of guys sit down at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, start watching a film. and then other guys want to watch one at 6:30, but they're watching and they're halfway through, and then you say, oh well, So I discussed it with the guys, and we said, right, no, what we'll do is we'll all have tea, then we'll all get together, we'll have a film every evening at 7:00. And it's a sort of team building thing.
Sure.
And if you allow people to just watch films during the day, and again, I'm not having a swipe at the Q guys, because they've got time to kill and they need to entertain themselves. But if you've got a job to do during the day, and we were flying, but we also had other things to do. If you allow people just to laze around in a crew room all day, they will just watch films and while away their time and do nothing useful.
Yeah,
as you well know.
We would, absolutely. Now, losing a Harrier during your short time in the Falklands must have been a blow. What did the Board of Inquiry have to say about that?
Well, I lost two actually, because I was in the Falklands twice, and both times I lost aircraft. The first one was Mark Leakey, who's my number 2, and that was a straightforward engine failure. Off the top of my head, I can't honestly remember what the cause of that was, but it was one of those Harrier engine failures, probably similar to mine. It may well have been FOD, but for a fact I can't remember at the moment. The more interesting aspect of that accident was that Mark had a lot of trouble getting into his dinghy. Now, we used to do a lot of training for this every year about finishing up in the water, how to get into your dinghy and all that sort of thing. And of course, the preaching was, if the parachute came down over the top of you, then you just found a seam, worked your way along the seam to get out from underneath the parachute.
I remember
and
it
then
well.
Get into your dinghy. We were all told that's what you do. So that's exactly what happened to Mark, because it was absolutely still. There was no wind at all. He finished up in the water with the parachute coming down right on the top of him. He worked his way along, got himself out from underneath the parachute canopy, by which time his legs were all caught up in the rigging lines. And then he couldn't get into the dinghy because his legs were all caught up and he had the weight and he couldn't manoeuvre his legs and all that sort of thing. So he finished up half in and half out of his dinghy, completely exhausted. Now, it wouldn't have been too bad if the helicopter had come, because the helicopter was only based about a mile from where he landed. But unfortunately, the helicopter was being worked on at the time, because though we'd started flying, nobody had told them. So the helicopter was in pieces that was supposed to be on standby for our flying operations. We launched, and by the time Mark ejected, which was like only 10 minutes after we'd launched, after we'd done the weather check, the aircraft still wasn't able to fly. So they had finished up hurriedly putting it back together again, eventually got airborne, came out, found Mark, cut him free of his rigging lines, and got him in the helicopter and flew him away.
Had he become hypothermic?
No, I don't think so. He hadn't been in the water that long, and of course he'd got an immersion suit on, he got all the right underclothes on and everything, so I think he was okay. He was just very, very tired at that point.
Interesting, yeah. You don't mention the Phantom chaps who were also in the Falklands match. Did you guys mix at all?
What, professionally or socially? Or
socially,
both?
Yeah.
Socially,
well,
yeah.
Actually both, yeah.
That's a very good point, actually, Nick. We didn't mix socially that much. We worked with them quite closely every day. We do flying operations, which would involve them. Socially, we didn't mix that much, as I remember.
Interesting. Because there weren't very many pilots on the whole place, and you're the only two fighters out there.
Yeah, it's a very good question. Looking back on it, I think perhaps they were doing this Q bit, so they were spending a lot of time on Q, and when they weren't on Q, they had downtime to recover and do whatever they did, and so on. What I do remember, certainly from my first detachment or second detachment, I must say, we actually got on very well with the Bristow's helicopter guys, and we used to do quite a lot of socialising with them. And they had a house in town where they all lived, and they used to have an open evening. I think it was every Wednesday night, so we used to go and socialise with those guys. So Phantom guys, not particularly, to be honest. And I can't think of any particular reason for that. It just didn't.
You just don't like Phantom pilots, I can tell.
I wouldn't say that. But when we were down at the Coastal, which is where we lived, this floating hotel that was down there, you'd have a beer with the guys down there, but it wasn't like we actually had social events with them as such.
Interesting. You appeared to enjoy your return to the Falklands, but lost another Harrier, you've already mentioned, and nearly the pilot as well.
Yeah.
Was it just a coincidence, or were the accident rates there higher than in Germany?
It was just a coincidence. I don't think there was anything particular about it. The second accident was, again, an engine failure, but that was caused by a bird being taken down. The aircraft was travelling at very high speed and very low level at the time, just coming onto the airfield boundary actually, on a simulated attack. So that's just a normal operating hazard. It goes back to your point about one engine or two engines. Unfortunately, that was a big bird and it did a lot of damage, and Ian Wilkes, the pilot, had no option but to get out of the aircraft very quickly.
Now, your return to Germany, of course, involved several field deployments, sometimes with much excitement, I read. Did you ever resent having to spend so much time under canvas, albeit with the occasional ice cream van visit?
It did become a bit of a pain, to be honest, yes. And I would also say that we carried on doing these field deployments while we were supporting the South Atlantic as well. So it was a very demanding time, and I think you can relate to this from your own time in the military, that when something crops up, like, albeit post the Falklands War, we're still supporting the Falklands effort down there, you're still doing your day job back at home, which is providing a presence in the central region to make sure that the Soviets are aware that we're still there and we're still fully trained. And so I think I did 3 field deployments every year that I was in Germany. They tended to be 2-week deployments. The winter one was only 1 week. We only put 1 field site out in the winter just to prove the concept. And I say that advisedly because it was pretty bloody miserable, to be honest. Every year I finished up commanding the field site that went out in the middle of winter. The temperature at night generally, and this is no exaggeration, we get down to -10, -14 degrees at night every year I went out. And we had our normal camping gear, 12 by 12 tents. The only thing we did was we took a second sleeping bag out with us. So we were on camp beds, you tended to be in 2 sleeping bags, but it was pretty blooming miserable, to be honest. But we could do it, we did it. It was not nice, but we proved that you could take the aircraft out into a bare base and operate in the middle of winter.
I'm now in my mind thinking poor sleeping patterns because of the conditions, operating in the field where flight safety problems must rear their ugly head, tired air crew. Was there any mitigation of those threats?
No, we just did it. And that's the thing, you know, you're going to have an aircraft like the Harrier. It's not easy to operate it when you take it off base. And it's not just us, it's the engineers as well. They have to keep the thing serviceable.
All the engineering was done in open air?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, my very last winter deployment on the Friday afternoon, we're all looking forward hugely to getting back to base that afternoon. One of the aircraft landed with an engine problem. And I think, in all honesty, it was probably picked up after the aircraft had landed. And it was an engine change, Friday afternoon. And and I'm the site commander. So I went, right, everybody else clear the site. And what they called the field repair team was called out from Gütersloh. So these are the guys who are on standby with another engine. And they come out to do major problems out in the field. So these guys were called out on a Friday afternoon. So we cleared the whole site. So all the other aircraft went. Most of the engineers went. We kept a few to help the field repair team. We had some rations. I don't think we kept the caterers behind, but we just kept the bare minimum of people. And then the field repair team came along, and they arrived late afternoon with another engine for this thing. And of course they then had the crane, they had to lift the wing off, take the engine out, engine back in, wing back on.
What a job.
They're all done in 8 hours.
There's Friday afternoon motivation
So
for you.
it was amazing. And, so we were there sort of sitting around in a tent. We probably went for a beer, I can't really remember. But, the field repair team, by early morning, had got the aircraft sorted out. They'd done a ground run. Everything was okay. And I was there to fly it out. I was the only pilot. I just stayed behind myself as site commander. And I was going to fly it out. A very interesting little follow-up to that, because when I went to fly the aircraft out the next day, there were 3 little switches down in the cockpit here. And I can't for the life of me remember what the 3 did, because we never touched them. They're nothing to do with the pilots at all. And one of them was to limit the RPM available for ground runs. And we always checked those whenever we got in, and they were quite important. So they were gate locked. So there was a bar over them and a screw in. So once they were locked, they weren't going to shake loose or anything like that. And as usual, I just climbed up, started doing my checks, went there, and one of those was switched off.
Oh, naughty.
And I switched it back on, screwed it in, and if I'd tried taking it off, I would have had restricted RPM. I would only got about 90%, if I remember.
That would not have been funny.
Wouldn't have been funny, no. Having said, I might have got away with it, but of course, what we did was, on every field takeoff, you slammed to full power, and you just glued on the RPM gauge, while you're trying to keep straight as well, but you glued on the RPM gauge, and if there was any issue with the RPM just not going straight up to 100+%, you just slammed the throttle closed. So I think I probably got away with it anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you don't really want to put yourself in that position to start with.
No.
Oh, guys, this interview series is amazing, and I personally like it because it's all got all the military content, which is really what everybody listens to this show for. So,
Here we go.
Nev, I appreciate you taking one for the team and sitting in there and producing this series while.
Well, I think a prerequisite of these interviews should be that we, the interviewer and the technical staff, get lunch. And we did as well. So Chris organised a very nice lunch for us at his house, which was very, very tasty, I must say. We enjoyed that considerably. But really, really great stuff. And of course, we've got part 4 coming up next week as well.
Very good.
Well, there you go. You heard it first. Basically, that the military produces as nice of a client experience as British Airways Club Lounge or whatever it is that you.
Let it go, Armando. Let it go. You're not going to win.
I will convert you. I will convert you one day.
It's so amusing, isn't it, that Nev, our resident person who's not extremely excited about military stuff. In all the interview series that we've done on this show, and we have done quite a few now, with military experts and people from within that part of aviation, Nev, you always do such a good job.
Well, the reason I like being in the same room as a former military person is because, as always, they've got tremendous stories to tell. And I think it's absolutely fascinating as someone like me, a complete amateur, that, doesn't really understand the military and how it works. Just listening to these guys and girls talking. And, of course, Nick's interview, of course, is ideal as well, because unlike some of the mainstream media, he lets the interviewee talk.
Oh,
and
how
ask
refreshing.
Short questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that goes a long way, I think, to getting the whole thing across. I really enjoy making these with Nick. It's a great experience, it really is.
And of course, he's asking the right questions as well, isn't he? Because, of course, his background is also in military, albeit, some years ago. But, you still have that knowledge on board, don't you? So you can almost sort of preempt the right questions to ask, if you like, to get the best out of the interviewer.
Yeah, very much so. And Nick knows exactly which buttons to press and which questions to ask, I think. Yeah.
I know we laugh about it, Ned, but would you say over the last 2 or 3 years of doing these kind of things with Nick, would you say you're now finding it more enjoyable?
The groove, as it were. And no, I am interested in listening to what these guys and girls have gone through. Absolutely. Especially, the other week when Chris is talking about, ejecting from this aircraft as well. It's a hell of a thing to do just to get a tie, isn't it? But, I think that especially men and women that have served in the forces, being able to tell their story to someone like Nick who really appreciates it, and of course in many cases he was actually there in the environment himself. I think it's a great story. So I find that very interesting, I must say. I'm joking slightly when I say I don't find military interesting. I suppose that the main problem I have is that I just cannot easily identify aircraft. I find that very difficult indeed.
It is literally a different language.
Commercial,
isn't it?
I find that pretty straightforward. Yeah.
Armando, I've got a question for you, actually, if I may.
Go on.
Yes, sir.
Have you ever had to? Have you ever been involved in an ejection situation?
What, from an Osprey?
No.
Well, I don't know.
That's called a minced meat pie.
Okay, yeah, all right. Yeah, all
No,
right, okay, so I didn't think that through. I'm sorry.
No, I've never had the pleasure of departing an aircraft unexpectedly.
Right.
I guess I skydove. I skydiving.
That doesn't count. That's
skydiving.
That's organised chaos. That is.
Yeah. Well, listen, we couldn't have written the segue any better. Talking about great stories, just like the military. This next segment is coming to us from Reno. Now, we actually recorded this back in June of 2022. It was meant to air out for the Women in Aviation show, but it's just, again, too good to just kind of hang on to. So this is an interview that I recorded with Vicki Bensing. Vicki had an extremely successful career in technology. And then once she retired, she pursued a career as a professional pilot where she performs in air shows across the country. Now, in both careers, she was often one of the only leading women, which led to some pretty interesting stories. Now, she was born and raised in California. She's an accomplished pilot, skydiver, aerobatic performer, and air racer with almost 10,000 hours of flight time, 1,300 parachute jumps. She has a passion for everything airborne. And now her flying career has spanned nearly 40 years, and she does hold an airline transport pilot rating as well as commercial ratings in helicopters, seaplanes, and gliders. During her 24-year career in semiconductors, or the production of semiconductors, Vicki started taking some aerobatic flights with air show legend Wayne Handley, and she actually began her own aerobatic show. She does have a Boeing Stearman that she flies around the country at air shows, as well as a newly acquired P-51 Mustang. Yes, Vicki owns a Mustang, and her husband Jeff actually own a couple different airplanes. But in addition to aerobatics, Vicki, as you're going to hear, got the racing bug when a friend invited her to come play over at Reno. And in her first year of racing, which is pretty impressive, she was announced Rookie of the Year after having won her first race ever in her first event. In 2015, she did become the fastest woman racer ever at the Reno Air Race in a jet, qualifying in at 469 miles per hour. So there you go. Listen to this interview, which is about 20 minutes long, and let's get to know Vicki.
All right. Vicki, well, first of all, for real, we've been trying to do this for about 2 years, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm so hard to tie down.
That's a good thing, and I guess I just want to start out with, as the new guy at Reno, having only been here 6 years, one of the things why I've wanted to interview you is because I see you as such a well-respected pilot here, and you're kind of you're a mentor to everybody. And I know when I showed up here, I was not intimidated by you, but
oh my gosh,
but I certainly was impressed at how the class views Vicki Bensing. So I've been wanting to pin you down for a couple years now to get this, because I want to get your experience. So thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, of course. So, I was a rookie once too, right? I mean, we're all rookies at some point, and we all have to learn and learn our craft, learn our trade, and it takes time. And it's I guess a great honor that the guys around me respect my flying. So. That I couldn't ask for more.
And we'll jump right into it. So you started from you kind of came from an aviation family in California, right?
Right. Yeah, my uncle was a crop duster, and He actually raced at the Reno Air Races back in 1966-67 in the sport biplane division. And he was a air show pilot. He had one of the very first pit specials, and I was just a little kid. I looked up to him, and he took me for my first airplane ride at an age when I really didn't know if those were toy houses and toy cars or if those were real houses and real cars out on the road. And that had a big impression on me, and I think we don't realize that small things have big impressions on other people around us. And it was things that we do.
And that was just something you felt the first time you took the controls.
Oh my God. Yes. Yeah, the first time I took the controls flying, I just knew I wanted to do this for my whole life.
Yeah.
It was a passion, and everything else in my life might come and go, but flying would always stay. I would always fly.
So at that time, did you make it your life? Did you make it?
Well, I would have liked to have learned to fly when I was 14 or 16 or 17, but I didn't. I learned to fly when I was in graduate school.
Oh.
And one of my uncle was a pilot, but I didn't really think that I could do it. I mean, we came from modest means, and nobody put an airplane in my hand, and so it wasn't until one of my buddies asked me if I wanted to go skydiving, and I said yes, and fell in love with skydiving, and was out jumping every weekend and around the airplanes that I realized that I had to learn to fly. I knew that I had to learn to fly. So I talked to my parents, and my dad had a friend who let me learn to fly in his 1941 Taylorcraft on the coast in Watsonville, and I had to pay for the fuel and the instructor, and I was in school at the time, so I could afford 2 lessons a week, and I would drive down from Berkeley to Watsonville and take 2 lessons on every Saturday, and that's how I got my license.
So you went to school, you went to graduate school, but you ended up with a PhD in chemistry, right?
Right. So I was working on my PhD in chemistry, and funny enough, I had gone through my orals before I started skydiving, and on my first free fall, I had a malfunction, and at that time we jumped the military surplus gear, the big round parachutes,
C9
the belly
shoots,
reserves, and I had it in the cable cutaways, right? I had to cut away the parachute and pull the reserve, and I landed on the ground, and the instructor put another parachute on me and sent me right back up, and before I could get scared, and so, but after that, I sat down and was like, man, I saved my own life.
Yeah.
How cool is that? And now all of a sudden nothing was scary.
Yeah.
because like I'd had the scariest thing and I survived. And that really sort of changed my attitude about myself and the things that I found scary in graduate school and the people that I found intimidating, and I think also so that's what got me interested in learning to fly, and I think also learning to fly also gave me a tremendous amount of self-confidence to be able to operate the airplane, go fly somewhere, be responsible for it, and come back and land and be safe, and I really think that for young people that learning to fly is just such a great thing, because it's just this confidence builder that you don't necessarily have as a young person.
That is a huge barrier, right, to aviation is, can I do that? Can I solo an airplane? Can I really be a pilot? But I don't recommend everybody go skydiving and have a parachute malfunction as a confidence builder.
Yeah.
But so you had this defining moment, and so how can people build that self-confidence? And I imagine this was in your non-aviation career as well as in aviation. How can somebody improve self-confidence and
So I just talked to this young woman at an air show last couple weekends ago at Hillsborough, and I think it's really hard for young women now with social media. Everybody's writing critical things about, and there's this whole certain image you have to have and all. I think that the way to build self-confidence is to set goals for yourself and go achieve goals. Nobody can give you self-confidence. They can't tell you you're good at something or you're pretty or whatever to give you self-confidence. But if you start setting goals for yourself, and they can be just small goals, as you achieve those goals, you build more confidence that you can achieve more. And I think that is, for me, that was really the path to my self-confidence was, setting goals, achieving goals, and building along the way. And, some of those things were, of course, soloing an airplane, right? Get my pilot's license, get my degree, get my PhD. And my experience at Berkeley, I thought I was really smart coming out of Davis. And then I went to Berkeley to grad school, and I thought, oh my God, well, I just felt really stupid.
Yeah.
And everybody was smart. And then the professors were, they were like Nobel laureates and stuff, and you were just like this little small pebble. And I think that I didn't really get that self-confidence in myself as a scientist until I graduated from Berkeley, and I went and did a postdoc, and they're like, "Oh, you went to graduate school at Berkeley?"
Yeah.
and then we got to build a lab, and we had some money. We built experiments, and we published papers, and I really grew as a scientist then. And then I went off and got my first job, and I had a career in Silicon Valley and all that. But building confidence is a path, right? I mean, you don't just do it with one thing. It's a path you go on, and it happens with time. You have to grow, and age helps.
Yeah.
Perspective helps.
And related to that, what kind of people did you surround yourself with, right? So, I mean, we all have these people that either boost us up or drag us down. So was that something that you purposely sought out, was surrounding yourself with people that supported you and gave you that confidence, or did you have those people also that humbled you, or did the airplane do that?
Yeah, no, well, I mean, I think you have friends that support you, right? And that's why they're your friends, is because you all support each other, and if they're not supportive of you, they probably shouldn't be your friend. But I also think you have people in your life that don't necessarily support you, maybe even drag you down, or they challenge you, right? And a good example of that are people at work, people at your professors at school. They may be demanding, they may not be supportive, they may just have expectations, and maybe you can meet them and maybe you can't. And you can't let that stuff get you down. I think you have to learn to pick yourself up and carry on. And even with flying, I mean, stuff's going to happen. Your parachute's going to malfunction. You got to pick yourself up and carry on. Yeah. Don't let it get you down.
So in aviation, this has traditionally been, a man's world, and you were in aviation
in a time when there were hardly any female voices on the radio.
So how did you?
But I was in science too, and there were very few women in the hard sciences at the time. So how did I deal with it? I never thought of myself as anything different than the boys. I was a tomboy when I was growing up, and I was often the ringleader in my little group of boys. And I just never thought of myself as anything different as one of the boys. And even here, I don't. And when I realize that maybe some of the guys are teasing each other about the girl beating them, it kind of hurts my feelings, because I really do feel like I'm one of the boys.
Yeah. And there's a generational difference, there's a cultural difference in aviation. I've seen, 22 years in the Air Force, you see the entire gamut of cultures, and some are positive and some are negative. But here we're in Reno, we're sitting here on the ramp in Stead Airport.
It's very male.
It is very male dominated. All leadership positions are men.
I'm secretary of the Jets.
Well, in rah-rah,
Jets.
there's very few women, but you are, again, you're just one of the most respected women here. Not even women, you're one of the most respected pilots here. And I'm going to dime him out because I'm really good friends with George, but George Catalano respects you to the end of this world, and we actually talk about you because he, as a fellow race pilot, he does look up to you. I don't know if I'm supposed to tell you this, but
no, he wants to beat me though.
He does want to beat you, but in order to do that, he studies everything that you do on the course, your lines and everything, and he will tell us that nobody flies a better line than Vicky.
Really?
He absolutely looks up to your aviation skills.
Well, I was lucky that I got trained by Lee Bill,
Yeah.
and he spent a lot of time with me on teaching me the lines of the race course, and I got to ride with him on the race course.
Yeah.
And I've got to ride with quite a few really good pilots,
Yeah.
and learn the course. So I don't know if I have a really good line, but so far I'm passing George.
Well, and that was proven yesterday in the silver, or not yesterday, last year in the silver.
Oh well, yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
How I ended up top of the silver.
Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I love about sport class too is it's a collaborative environment. Everybody knows that the sport class has to succeed, and we are one of the pillars of the Reno Air Races and whatever that evolves to in the future. But I personally just love it when Jeff Lavelle and Andy Finley jump in an airplane together and they go fly around the course, and folks that are competitive by and large in this class, with a few exceptions, are all here to support each other as a class.
Right. It's the camaraderie of the class that I really love. I mean, sports will always be home for me.
Yeah. So I guess kind of switching over to your aerobatics, because you do aerobatics in air show performances in an extra and the Stearman, right?
Yep.
And an upcoming...
And the Mustang.
And the Mustang, yeah.
Not yet, but yeah, that's in the works.
So what is that now? And you've had some great pioneers, the Patty Wagstaffs of the world that have established women as a force in aerobatics.
Oh yeah, and generally women, there are not many women, but they're at the top level.
Yeah.
The ones that are at the top level.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks ago, I had an opportunity to fly the Hillsborough Air Show, which was an all-women air show, and there were 2 F-35s, a Navy and an Air Force F-35, both flown by women,
Mm-hmm.
F-18, F-16 flown by women, helicopter crews, C-130 crews, all women, lots and lots of female aviators at the show.
Yeah.
Fewer civilian women, and unfortunately there were a couple of the top women in the world that were going to attend the show, but like Svetlana Kopanina, but out of Russia, but the war in Ukraine kind of put the kibosh on that, so to speak. Yeah. And
so I've seen just I think this last weekend there was a picture of an F-35, an F-16, and the F-18 demo pilots were all flying together, and they were all piloted by women.
Oh yeah, and the Heritage flight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the commercial that the Air Force shows before Top Gun, that demo in that F-35 is flown by a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, when I was in the Air Force, we were slowly creeping up to the 20% mark of women aviators, and I think that's even closer to 30% now.
That's huge.
So it's pretty significant. I think the Air Force has always been on the leading edge of both women and minorities integration. All the way back to the 50s, they have been really, really on the cutting edge of that, with some challenges along the way, obviously. But so one of the questions that I wanted to ask you, so you've been around aviation for a couple decades now. What have you seen? Are there more opportunities for women? Are there less barriers, different barriers? I guess compared to your upbringing and women now.
Well, I think there's more women in aviation, and I think that in fields where there are women, more women see that they can do it, and so more women join. And so I think in that way the barrier is lowered. But women, I think women have some challenges that men don't have, in that, let's face it, women are the childbearers, right? So if a woman wants to have a career in aviation, she kind of has to choose between having a family and a career. Now that's not totally true. Back when I was coming in through graduate school, you had a career or you had a family. But now you see women have both. And I have a friend who's the very first female fighter pilot in the U.S. Her name's Jeanine Levitt. And she has a beautiful family. And she's a great example of, you can have it both, but you may have to, plan the timing of it.
Yeah.
I think for the female military aviators, they have to get themselves established in their career before they can take the time off to have a family. And it's not that much different for women in industry as well. If you're going to establish a career, you go and work for a number of years before you take the time off to have a family. And women are always going to have, they're always going to be the mothers and have their attention divided between their careers and raising their children. So that's a in a way that men don't have. So that will always be a challenge, I think, forever. I mean, it's just biology.
Yeah.
Unless they incubate them and somebody else raises them.
Well, there was that Sylvester Stallone movie, right?
Yeah.
The Oscar where he has a kid.
Yeah, but I do think there's more opportunities in general, and it's all open to women. So there's plenty of opportunities for women in aviation, and it's I don't know. I just love to see the fact that there's just so many women joining the ranks of aviators. Yeah.
So you personally, you've got a partnership with California Aeronautical University, right? And so what does that partnership look like? Do you get to mentor all kinds of young people? And
yeah, so I represent the university. They're my sponsor for my air show business, for lack of a better word. And I get to interact with the students at the shows. They come and support the shows, usually as a recruiting tool. I get to go to their commencement exercises. I've been a commencement speaker. They have promotional ceremonies when the kids get their pilot's license or their commercial certificate or their instructor ratings. And I'll attend some of those ceremonies, and the parents will come, and it's just, to me, it's just so cool to see how proud the parents are of their kids as they progress through the program. It's a really great program. The kids get a 4-year degree in 3 years because they go all year round. They complete all their ratings through flight instructor in the first 18 months, and then the second 18 months they're instructing the younger students while they're finishing their coursework. So they're building hours for a job in the airlines or whatever flying job they're going to get, and they're earning money along the way. So it's a great program, and you can tell what a good program it is because the kids are excited and happy, and they're not learning, but they get a lot of flying. So
and generally,
that's what they want to do.
People that are going into aviation largely already have a love for it coming from somewhere, right? Some kind of influence.
Yeah.
So one thing for people, for all young people, but especially women and minorities and underrepresented demographics, what kind of organizations can they seek out to get this kind of mentorship, this kind of, you can do it, how, is it as easy as just show up to your local airport? Or
well, I do think pilots want to make new pilots.
Yeah,
we want to see what we love get perpetuated. So yeah, it is as easy as showing up at your local airport, or participating in some of the Young Eagles or EAA programs. They always have summer camps and Young Eagles flights and those kinds of things. And there's local chapters for EAA all over the country.
Yeah.
And
Civil Air Patrol too.
Yeah, Civil Air Patrol. My cousin, one of my cousins was in Civil Air Patrol, and so I think those are all great programs. Even International Aerobatic Club. I mean, they run contests. They need volunteers to help, and it's a good way to see what the sport's about and watch some fancy flying. And so any of the pilot organizations, I would say, would be. Most airports have local pilot organizations, and most of the local pilot organizations and most of the EAA chapters and AOPA and Women in Aviation and all these organizations, they all offer scholarships for learning to fly. And if you do some research on the internet, it should be pretty easy to find scholarships, both from national organizations and also local pilot organizations. And if you have an interest in learning to fly, go look on the internet. Search that out, because there are dollars out there to help you.
Yeah, that's a huge barrier, to be honest, nowadays is so expensive.
And it hasn't gotten easier with price caps.
Yeah. Nope.
So gosh, I remember when I was I had a job up in Oregon, and the little airport across the river, they were renting one of their little Aroncas for like $14 an hour. $14 an hour wet. I mean, like,
that's
so cheap.
Oh my gosh, that doesn't even pay for the oil in an hour right now.
Yeah, I don't know if they actually made a profit or they just wanted to get people to fly.
Yeah.
But
so
it's definitely costs a lot more now.
Yeah, and we talk about that on the show quite a bit, about the rising cost. Now, this is a UK-based podcast, so here in the US, while it's expensive, it's not nearly as expensive as our European partners in Australia and our folks in India and South Africa that travel to European countries or maybe even come to the US.
But that's right. A lot of people come to the US to get their pilot's license because it is cheaper here.
Yeah.
I mean, you see quite a lot of that.
Yeah.
And I think it's probably worth it.
Yeah, I'm trying to get one of our co-hosts here to actually come over to the U.S. and just finish his, because he's been working on his PPL over in Europe or in the U.K. for years now. So I'm just like, just come to the U.S. and you can actually do both in some flight schools. I think American Flyers will give you an FAA PPL, but then they'll also give you your EASA exams, so you can kind of do both at the same time. But
I remember I went over to England and rented an airplane to go flying around, and the cost was like the same as renting a helicopter here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just that much more expensive.
Yeah, I used to fly a Cub in East Anglia, in eastern part of England, and it was about $300 an hour.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
But it's a beautiful country, and you're at 500 feet, and there's castles and churches and manor homes and hedgerows, and there's nothing like it.
Yeah, these are the experiences really that you no price.
Exactly. Yeah. Now I want to finish with one question. This is going to be a total curveball. I didn't prep you for this one on purpose, and I can't believe I'm asking this question of somebody that owns a P-51 Mustang, a legit one. But we always finish with, if there was any airplane in the world, past, present, future,
that I wanted to fly,
that you wanted to fly, what would that airplane be?
It would be the space shuttle.
That's a great answer for somebody who owns a Mustang. Awesome. Well, we may not get that chance anymore, huh? I guess not. Chair fly it at the Smithsonian.
But maybe, they're sending other things up.
Whatever comes next. Awesome. Thank you, Vicky, so much.
You're so welcome. It's so great to talk to you. All right.
See you guys.
Well, that was an awesome interview, guys. And what she didn't say in any of that she's actually also flown in a bunch of films and TV shows.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Carlos, you've probably watched all these TV shows, but she actually flew her Stearman. She flew some jets in the movie Mercury 13. She's flown in ice. Yeah, she flew in Ice Pilots, which was a show on Discovery. She flew some of the air scenes in NCIS LA.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so yeah, and most recently she was featured just in the fall issue of Flying Magazine. Her Stearman is the very first, sort of 2-page spread in there. So I can't wait to hear more from Vicky as the years goes along. And you know what? We'll actually
we'll get her on the show.
We can get her on the show, and she was nothing but nice to us this year at Reno, and she took some just a lovely picture with Maddie this year at Reno. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about the people that support this show, Carlos.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's time to say a big thanks to everyone who supports the show every month with Patreon, and I'll give Nev a break this month. I'll do these ones. So we've got through Patreon. The link is on our website. You can click on that, so you can find it on our website. But we've got to thank this month Logan Lynch, Alex Robinson, Dirk S, Sasha Beer, Stephen Ivy, Nicholas Codling, Louis. I can never pronounce this one. Armando, help me out here.
Luis Caceres.
Thank you very much. Alan White, Stephen Howland, Tanya Wyman, Nicholas Hewitt, Masha Gertz, Ruben Wells, Neil Lamworn, Graham Haley, Jonathan Warner, Eric Graves, Jordan Rose, Andrew Wilson, Captain Jeff, Adam Spink, Liz Piper, Jenny Parkinson, Evan Shue, Shut Backer, Ray Williams, and Stephanie Plummer, aka Dr. Steph. And our PayPal donators for through the PayPal means, we say thank you to Craig Eurosco. Thank you to you, Craig, for your kind donation. Richard Adams, Tony Stubbings, and also big thanks to Mazuz Karim as well. Thanks to one and all, to everyone who helped support the show, because it really, really does help. There's been a few instances in the last few months where we've had to buy some few more bits of tech equipment for Matt, and I think you've got your ears on something else, I think, Matt, haven't you, in the audio realms of the studio, I think, haven't you, that you want to have a look at?
Oh, do I?
Yeah, something to do with the audio, wasn't it, from Zoom and all the other bits and pieces?
Oh yeah, we're trying to just improve the quality from Zoom, so we're looking at some options for that.
So thanks to everyone for your kind donations. We all, as a team, very much appreciate it as well. Thank you ever so much indeed. So there we go.
Indeed, there we go. Right, well that's pretty much it then, Carlos. Shall we wrap up?
Yeah, we'll wrap up the show for this week. So we're going to have a look at social media platforms. If you don't already follow us, get yourselves over to Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. You can search for us on there, Plain Talking UK. Don't forget that lovely, shiny, glossy WhatsApp number, +44 757 22 if you want to send a picture to go on the green screens behind me and Matt here in the studios. You can email the show, podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. We'd love to have some feedback from you. Have you loved the interview series that we're currently playing out with Chris Burwell? If you have, send us an email, send us a voice message. You can send that via the WhatsApp number or via that email number. And also at the website, allthews.plaintalkinguk.com is the website where you'll find info on all of us as a team. You'll also find all the links on there to PayPal, Patreon, and the store as well, where you can catch yourself some PTUK merchandise if you so fancy. And there's also a little link on there for Amazon if you're doing your shopping this weekend, as I will probably be at some point, to buy some cat food. You can click on that link and grab yourself some bargains on Amazon, and it also helps us with a little referral fee as well that we get on the show.
Indeed.
So that's all we've got time for episode 428, our special episode this week. We hope you've enjoyed all the content on the show for tonight. So take care, everyone. Have a great weekend. From me, Carlos, here at home in the studio, from Matt in the PTUK Master Suite Studios, from Nev in his glorious countryside Buckinghamshire manor, and from Armando in the windswept Carolinas. Take care. Say goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Have a good week. Bye.